I'm not going down with a man who can't even keep the lights on, Camille said, her voice sharp as glass breaking. I sat at our kitchen table, surrounded by unopened bills and foreclosure notices. Red stamps screamed final notice on half of them. My wife stood by the doorway, suitcase already packed, diamond ring still catching the morning light on her finger. She'd been standing there for 10 minutes, waiting for me to beg, to promise things would get better, to convince her to stay. I said nothing. The silence stretched between us like a canyon neither of us would cross. Outside, a car horn honked. Her ride was here. Someone else's car, someone else's future. You were supposed to be different, she continued, softer now, but no less final. You promised me security. I looked up at her then, memorizing her face in that moment. Not out of love, but so I'd never forget what betrayal looked like dressed in a blue sundress. I'll remember this day, I whispered. She grabbed her suitcase and walked out. The door didn't slam. It clicked shut with a quiet finality that hurt worse than shouting ever could. My name is Chris Wintrow, and that was the morning my wife told me I was finished. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. 1 week earlier, I'd walked into my office to find my business partner's desk cleaned out. Tom Bradley and I had built Wintrow Construction from nothing. 15 years of sweat, calloused hands, and missed family dinners. We framed houses in July heat and poured concrete in February cold. The company was finally profitable. Finally stable. Then I checked our business account that Tuesday morning and saw the balance, $347.12. Tom had transferred everything out over the previous 3 weeks. Small amounts at first, then larger chunks. By the time I noticed, he'd taken $280,000 and disappeared. I called him 17 times. Every call went straight to voicemail. By Wednesday, 3 of our biggest clients had pulled contracts. Word spread fast in construction. Nobody wanted to work with a company that couldn't make payroll. By Thursday, my lead foreman quit. Then 2 more guys followed. I sat in my empty office Friday afternoon, staring at invoices I couldn't pay and contracts I couldn't fulfill. When I got home that night, Camille was waiting in the kitchen with her arms crossed. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Bad," I admitted. "But I can fix it." Her expression told me she didn't believe that for a second. The divorce papers arrived by courier on a Monday morning. I was living in my friend Danny's garage by then, sleeping on an air mattress between his kids' old bicycles and boxes of Christmas decorations. The eviction notice on our house had come through 2 weeks after Camille left. The courier made me sign for the envelope. I thanked him and closed the door before opening it. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The words blurred together. She was citing irreconcilable differences and financial hardship as reasons. I called her once. Just once. "Can you wait?" I asked. "Just give me 6 months to rebuild something." "There's nothing left to rebuild, Chris. You've already lost everything worth saving." The line went dead. Her lawyer was expensive. Mine was whoever would take payment plans. The hearing lasted 20 minutes. The judge granted her half of what remained, which wasn't much, but included the house we'd bought together. I signed the papers in a courthouse hallway, using a chipped pen that barely worked. Walking out into the afternoon sun, I felt lighter. Not free exactly, but untethered. Like a boat cut loose from a dock during a storm. Dangerous, but no longer tied to something sinking. Rock bottom smelled like motor oil and old coffee. I took a night shift at Hank's Auto Repair, working 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. fixing engines and changing oil. The pay was terrible, but the work was honest, and Hank didn't ask questions about why a former business owner was suddenly working his garage. I kept a framed photo in my locker. Not of Camille. Of my old company sign, Wintrow Construction. It reminded me who I used to be. One night around 2 a.m., I was replacing brake pads when I heard 2 other mechanics talking in the break room. "Did you hear about Owen Drake's new girlfriend?" one said. "Yeah, supposedly she just got divorced. Some contractor who went bankrupt. Camille something. Real piece of work, from what I heard." I stayed hidden behind the car, listening as they laughed about how Owen was living large while I was probably homeless somewhere. Owen Drake. Luxury developer. I built 3 of his properties back when I still had a company. Now he had my wife. The humiliation burned worse than any financial loss ever could. Instead of rage, I bought a notebook. $50 I couldn't afford, but I needed it. Not for crying or venting. For planning. I titled the first page, Lessons I Learned from Losing Everything. Entry 1. Never trust a partner who won't show you the books weekly. Entry 2. Diversify income streams. One disaster shouldn't destroy everything. Entry 3. Study the laws. Ignorance cost me more than Tom's theft. I filled pages over the next month, writing between shifts at the garage. I studied real estate law at the library during my few free hours. I learned about foreclosure auctions, tax liens, property management. One night, I wrote something that changed everything. If I ever rebuild, I'll own the dirt under my feet. Nobody takes that away. The old Chris built things for other people. The new Chris would build an empire so quiet that nobody would see it coming. I looked at my wedding ring, still sitting in my locker. I hadn't worn it since the divorce finalized. You said I was finished, I whispered to the empty garage. I met Mel Carter at a county foreclosure auction I had no business attending. The retired contractor was bidding on a duplex in the rough part of town. I was there to watch, to learn how these things worked. When the bidding stalled at $35,000, I heard myself say, 36. Everyone turned. Mel raised to 37. I went 38. He won at 41,000, but approached me afterward. You got money to back up that bid? He asked, not unkindly. No, I admit it. But I'm learning. He studied me for a long moment. You know anything about renovation? I built houses for 15 years. Past tense. Long story. He nodded slowly. Buy me coffee and tell me the short version. Over burnt diner coffee, I explained everything. Tom, the bankruptcy, Camille, the garage. When I finished, Mel was quiet. Then he said, I bought that duplex to flip. You help me gut and renovate it. I'll teach you how to bid smart. We split profits 50-50. I shook his hand. Deal. We worked on that duplex for 6 weeks, mostly by lantern light because the electricity was shut off. My hands, soft from months of changing oil, hardened again. I remembered the weight of a hammer, the satisfaction of a straight cut, the smell of fresh lumber. Mel taught me things I'd never learned running a company. How to spot foundation issues that would kill a deal. Which neighborhoods were about to turn around. How to negotiate with contractors who work for cash. We gutted walls, replaced plumbing, refinished floors. I cut my hands, lost sleep, skipped meals. But every nail I drove felt like reclaiming something stolen. The night we finished, Mel and I stood in the empty living room looking at our work. Fresh paint, new fixtures, clean lines. What do you think? He asked. I think somebody's going to love living here. The duplex sold 3 weeks later for $89,000. After expenses, we each cleared $18,000. It was the most money I'd touched since the bankruptcy. That night, I pulled out my wedding ring and looked at it one last time before putting it in a donation box. You said I was finished. I repeated and walked away. I registered Wintro Holdings on a Tuesday afternoon, filing the paperwork at the county clerk's office. Nobody knew it was me. The LLC listed a P.O. box as the address. All correspondence went to a mail center across town. With my share from the duplex, I bought 2 small properties at auction. Both needed work, but both were in neighborhoods showing signs of life. New coffee shops, young families moving in, old buildings getting facelifts. I renovated them myself, working weekends and nights after my shifts at the garage. One morning, I was reading the local paper during a break when I saw a headline, Drake Development under investigation for fraud. The article detailed allegations that Owen Drake had been inflating property values and falsifying inspection reports. Several investors were suing. I read it twice, then carefully folded the paper and put it away. I didn't smile, didn't call anyone, didn't celebrate. I just went back to work. The phone call came 6 months later, out of nowhere. I was painting trim in one of my rental properties when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Chris? It's Camille. I stopped painting mid-stroke. Hello. You heard about Owen, right? Her voice had an edge I recognized. Desperation. It's been really hard. I read something in the paper. Silence. Then, we should talk. Maybe get coffee. I feel like we left things badly. Every instinct told me to hang up, but curiosity won. I'm pretty busy these days. Please. Just an hour. I'll think about it. After we hung up, I opened my notebook and wrote a new entry. Never feed nostalgia. It only keeps you hungry for what's gone. I didn't call her back. Owen Drake's company collapsed 3 months later. The investigation uncovered millions in fraud. Investors lost everything. His properties went into foreclosure. I watched it unfold from a distance, reading updates in the business section while drinking coffee in my small apartment. Camille's name appeared once, in a society column about Owen's legal troubles. Former wife Camille Bradley Drake has reportedly filed for separation. My old last name attached to his. Then cut loose. Meanwhile, I was closing on my biggest purchase yet, a 6-story office building downtown. It needed work, but the location was perfect and the price was right. I walked through it alone one evening, my footsteps echoing in the empty lobby. This was the kind of building Owen used to own. The kind he'd hired me to build back when I was just his contractor. Now it was mine. I didn't post about it on social media. Didn't tell anyone except Mel. Just kept working like I was still broke, still hungry, still proving something to myself. The mentorship program was Mel's idea. You should teach what you learned, he said one afternoon. Young contractors, guys starting out. Show them how to do it right. So I started meeting with small builders on weekends, sharing lessons about bidding, renovation, property management. Most were hungry and humble, grateful for advice from someone who'd been through the fire. One Saturday morning, my assistant Amy mentioned a new batch of job applications for the property management firm I'd quietly started. Anyone interesting? I asked, not really paying attention. One stood out. Lots of experience in real estate, desperate for work. Name's Camille Drake. I froze. Amy noticed. You okay? What position is she applying for? Entry-level admin phones, filing, basic office work. I pulled up her resume on my computer. There she was, my ex-wife, applying to work at my company under her married name. She had no idea who owned the building. Should I tell her the owner's name before the interview? Amy asked. I thought for a long moment. No, let her tell me her story first. The morning of her interview, I arrived early. My office was on the 3rd floor, glass walls letting me see the reception area. I watched people come and go, waiting. At 10 a.m., she walked in. 7 years had changed her. She looked thinner, older. Her clothes were professional but worn. She clutched a portfolio like it was a life raft. She didn't look around much, just walked straight to the reception desk and announced herself quietly. Amy showed her to the waiting area, then came to my office. She's here. Should I bring her up? I watched Camille through the glass. She was checking her phone, nervous. Give me 5 minutes. Then send her to conference room B. I'll meet her there. Amy paused. Chris, who is she to you? Someone I used to know, I said. A long time ago. I entered the conference room through the back door and sat with my back to the entrance. The door opened. I heard her footsteps, then the sound of her setting down her portfolio. Good morning, she said, voice professional but shaky. Thank you for meeting with me. I turned around slowly in my chair. Her smile died instantly. All color drained from her face. Chris, have a seat, Ms. Drake. She stood frozen, hand gripping the back of the chair. I didn't know that I owned this building. No, most people don't. I prefer to keep things quiet. She sat down heavily, looking like she might be sick. You're the owner. Yes. The same man you said was finished. The silence was absolute. She tried to laugh. It came out strangled. I had no idea you'd. Last you heard, I was working in a garage. I finished calmly. For about 2 years. Chris, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. This is a job interview. Tell me about your qualifications. She blinked. You're serious? You applied. I'm conducting the interview. Unless you'd like to leave. She swallowed hard. No. I need this job. Then tell me about your experience. She stumbled through her resume. Office management for Owen's company, some bookkeeping, client relations. Her voice kept breaking. When she finished, I leaned back. The position is entry level. You'll answer phones, file paperwork, process invoices. Nothing glamorous. I understand. Do you? Because the last time we spoke, you were explaining why I wasn't worth waiting for. Her eyes filled with tears. That was a mistake. I was wrong about so many things. Yes, I said quietly. You were. I slid the employment contract across the table. Sign if you want a job. No special treatment. No history acknowledged in front of other employees. You'll be judged on your work. She signed with shaking hands. Camille started the following Monday. I watched from my office as Amy showed her around. The desk, the filing system, the phone protocols. Basic work that she was clearly overqualified for, but she listened carefully and nodded. Other employees had no idea who she was. To them, she was just the new admin. I caught her looking up toward my office once. I turned away before she could make eye contact. At the end of her first week, she made a mistake. Filed invoices under the wrong account codes. It created a mess that took 3 hours to untangle. Amy wanted to write her up. It's a pretty basic error. Everyone makes mistakes their first week, I said. Talk to her about the system again. If it happens twice, then we address it formally. Amy looked at me curiously, but nodded. Later that afternoon, Camille appeared at my office door. Can I thank you for not making this harder than it is? I'm not here to make things hard or easy, I replied. I'm here to run a business. You're here to do a job. That's all this is. She nodded and walked away. The first few months were tense. Camille worked quietly, arriving early and leaving late. She kept her head down, avoided conversation with other employees, ate lunch alone. I heard through Amy that some coworkers thought she was standoffish. She doesn't really connect with anyone, Amy said. One afternoon, I overheard 2 employees talking by the coffee machine. Think the boss has a thing for her, one asked. Why else would she still be here? She's not that good. I walked past without acknowledging them. Let them think what they wanted. But that night, I found a note on my desk. Camille's handwriting. Can we talk? Not about work. About us. I read it twice, then tore it in half and dropped it in the trash. 3 months in, something unexpected happened. Our company accountant discovered a discrepancy. Some invoices weren't matching deposit records. The error traced back to Camille's work. Amy brought it to me with clear frustration. This could be serious. If auditors find this kind of thing, it reflects poorly on everyone. The amount was small, but the principle mattered. I called Camille into my office. She looked terrified. I didn't mean to. I was trying to fix something else, and I think I made it worse. Sit down, she said. I pulled up the records and walked through them with her, showing her where the mistake happened and how it cascaded. This gets fixed today, I said, and you're going to learn the accounting system properly. I'm assigning you 2 hours a day with our accountant until you understand it completely. You're not firing me? Should I? She shook her head quickly. Then we're done here. Fix it. After she left, Amy asked why I was being so lenient. I didn't have a good answer. Maybe because I remembered my own mistakes. Maybe because revenge doesn't work when you become the villain. Or maybe I just wanted her to see what mercy looked like. Camille changed after that. She stopped being distant with coworkers. Started asking questions, joining conversations, volunteering for extra projects. I watched it happen from behind my glass walls. The brittle woman who'd walked in desperate was slowly becoming someone functional again. One evening, I stayed late finishing paperwork. Around 8 p.m., I looked up to see Camille still at her desk. I walked over. You don't need to stay this late. She looked up surprised. I wanted to finish these reports. Get ahead for Monday. Camille, go home. Work will always be here. She nodded, started packing her bag, then stopped. Can I say something? Go ahead. Thank you for giving me a chance. I know you didn't have to. I thought about that. You're right. I didn't. But everyone deserves a chance to start over. Even people who didn't give others the same courtesy. She flinched but didn't argue. The dinner invitation came by email, formal and carefully worded. Chris, I know this is unusual, but I'd like to apologize properly. Would you consider having dinner with me? Nothing romantic. Just closure. I stared at the message for 20 minutes before responding. One dinner. That's it. We met at a quiet restaurant neither of us had been to before. Neutral territory. She arrived first, wearing a simple dress. No jewelry except a watch. We ordered. Made small talk. Then she started crying. "I need to tell you something," she said, wiping her eyes. "Owen wasn't what I thought. He was charming at first, but he was using me. When everything collapsed, he blamed me for things I didn't do. I lost everything. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know I didn't leave you for money. I left because I was scared. Scared of being poor, scared of struggling. And I married Owen for the same reason. I was wrong both times. I listened without interrupting. I thought you'd never recover," she continued. "I thought I was making the smart choice. But you rebuilt everything. You became the man I claimed I wanted. And Owen showed me what I actually deserved. After dinner, we sat in her car in the parking lot. She turned to me, something hopeful in her eyes. 'Do you think we could ever?' I stopped her gently. 'No. Why not? We're both different people now.' 'You're right. We are different. But this isn't a reunion, Camille. It's closure. Then what was tonight about? Forgiving you. And thanking you.' She looked confused. 'Thanking me? For leaving when you did. If you'd stayed, I would have spent years trying to save something broken. Your leaving forced me to rebuild. Better, stronger, smarter.' Tears ran down her face. 'So I was just a lesson?' 'No. You were my wife. I loved you. But that's past tense for a reason.' I opened the car door and stepped out. 'Take care of yourself, Camille.' 'Really?' I walked away as she sat there crying. It wasn't cruelty. It was honesty. 2 months later, Amy mentioned that Camille had submitted her resignation. She said it was personal reasons. Gave 2 weeks' notice. Did she say anything else? Amy shook her head. Just that she appreciated the opportunity. On Camille's last day, she left something on my desk. An envelope with a handwritten note inside. 'I hope you find peace, Chris.' I couldn't. I kept the note but didn't respond. Sometimes mercy means letting people walk away with dignity. A year later, I got an offer I wasn't expecting. A national real estate firm wanted to buy my entire property portfolio. The number had 7 figures and came with stock options. I met with their representatives twice. They showed me projections, growth models, expansion plans. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having. I walked through my buildings one last time, considering it. Stopped at the office where Camille had worked, remembering the day she'd walked in desperate. That night, I called the firm's lead negotiator. 'I appreciate the offer, but I'm declining. Mr. Wintrow, this is an exceptional opportunity. I'm sure it is. But some things mean more than money.' I hung up and felt lighter. Instead of selling, I transformed the main office building into something new. Wintrow Community Workspace opened 6 months later. Affordable office space for small contractors, builders, and entrepreneurs starting out. The kind of help I wished I'd had. The grand opening drew a crowd. Local press covered it. Young business owners toured the space, eyes wide at the possibility. I gave a short speech about second chances and building from nothing. Afterward, as people were leaving, I saw her standing at the back of the crowd. Camille. She looked healthier, more put together. She didn't approach, just watch from a distance. Our eyes met across the room. I nodded once. She nodded back. Then she turned and walked away. She found me later, standing alone by the entrance. 'I almost didn't come,' she said quietly. 'But I wanted to see what you built. What do you think? I think you didn't just win financially. You became something I never imagined.' 'What's that?' 'Untouchable.' We stood in silence for a moment. 'I was wrong about you,' she finally said, voice trembling. 'Not just about leaving. About who you were.' I looked at her, really looked at her. 'You weren't wrong, Camille. You just stopped looking too soon. Can I ask you something?' 'Go ahead. Are you happy?' 'I thought about that. I'm at peace. That's better than happy.' She smiled sadly. 'I'm glad.' 'Really? What about you? What are you doing now?' 'Working for a non-profit. Helping people with financial literacy.' 'Ironic, right? Sounds perfect.' She extended her hand. 'Goodbye, Chris.' 'For real this time.' I shook it. Goodbye, Camille. Take care of yourself. She walked away as cameras flashed behind me, reporters still covering the opening. This time, I didn't watch her go. That evening, I stood in my top-floor office looking out over the city. 7 years ago, I'd been sleeping in a garage, broken and humiliated. My wife had called me finished. Now I owned half the skyline she was looking at. But that wasn't the victory. The victory was the peace I'd found in building rather than destroying, in helping others rather than seeking revenge, in becoming someone I respected when I looked in the mirror. I pulled out my old notebook, the one I'd bought with my last $50. Opened it to the last blank page. I wrote one final entry: revenge isn't winning. It's healing loud enough that they hear it. I closed the notebook and set it on the shelf, next to framed photos of buildings I'd renovated and lives I'd helped change. The man who'd been called finished now stood in a building he owned, in a life he'd rebuilt from nothing. Not because someone believed in him, because he believed in himself when no one else would. I turned off the lights and headed home. Tomorrow there would be more work, more buildings to fix, more people to help. But tonight I was simply Chris Wintrow, the man who proved everyone wrong by proving himself right.